earn a 5-star rating from the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services since 2016. You can learn more at smh.com. Cross the moat and celebrate Dedication Day at Bok Tower Gardens in Lake Wales with a day of music, storytelling, and history on January 31st in honor of the garden's dedication in 1929. Details at boktowergardens.org.
Property taxes are a big issue right now. Some think they're beneficial, others think they should be eliminated. But property tax is how community services survive. Do you think there's a balance between lowering taxes and still getting the services that make our neighbourhoods thrive? Call 813-755-6562 or email FloridaMatters at WUSF.org and let us know. We want to hear from you. Also, this hour we'll have an update on Schools of Hope. Hear how one school district is planning to close some schools and merge others to stop charter schools moving onto public school property. And it's getting really, really chilly. Find out what Winter Storm Fern has in store for us here in the Sunshine State and how it could affect your weekend plans. All this and your calls and emails and so much more in just a moment. First, news.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is holding his first cabinet meeting of the year. He says he's working with Democrats on avoiding a partial government shutdown. Funding for federal agencies is due to expire at the end of tomorrow. Senate Democrats have threatened to block legislation to fund the Department of Homeland Security, among others, in the wake of the sweeping immigration enforcement campaign in Minnesota, where the deaths of 2 U.S. citizens, most recently VA nurse Alex Preddy, has sparked outcry from Democrats and Republicans. The Justice Department alleges 16 protesters in Minnesota have assaulted or impeded federal immigration officers. From Minnesota Public Radio, Matt Sepik has details.
U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi posted the names and photos of the protesters to social media before the cases were unsealed, drawing a sharp rebuke from a federal judge. The 16 are charged by complaint with obstructing or impeding federal officers, but defense attorney Kevin Rich says a grand jury must still approve the charges.
It's not that difficult to make a case past the grand jury, but the DOJ has a history of bringing bogus prosecutions, as we have seen in recent months, and the grand jury is a good bulwark.
One defendant, a Somali-American U.S. citizen, alleges agents injured her and called her a racial slur while arresting her and questioning her citizenship. For NPR News, I'm Matt Sepik in Minneapolis.
Minnesota U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar is running for governor.
Now is our moment to renew our commitment to the common good. I'm asking Democrats, independents, and Republicans to join our campaign. It is a homegrown one born in a moment like no other.
Klobuchar declared her campaign in a video message today after Governor Tim Walz ended his re-election bid, facing GOP criticism of widespread government services fraud on his watch. The Democrats are both outspoken critics of President Trump and the immigration enforcement surge in the state. The average U.S. life expectancy has hit an all-time high, according to new data released today by the federal government. But as NPR's Rob Stein explains, the U.S. still has a ways to go toward improving longevity.
U.S. life expectancy increased to age 79 in 2024, according to the Center for Health Statistics. That's the highest life expectancy since the government started tracking this key measure of the nation's health and well-being in 1900. The increase in life expectancy was caused primarily by a drop in deaths from drug overdoses and from COVID-19, which fell out of the top 10 causes of death for the first time since the pandemic. But U.S. life expectancy still lags far behind other wealthy nations, such as Australia and Japan. Rob Stein, NPR News.
U.S. stocks are trading lower this hour. The Dow is down 110 points. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the estate of Joan B. Kroc, whose bequest serves as an enduring investment in the future of public radio and seeks to help NPR be the model for high-quality journalism in the 21st century. This is NPR.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. Developers want to build homes near a hazardous waste site and former phosphate mine in eastern Hillsborough County. WUSF's Jessica Mazzaros reports the rezoning request seems headed for approval.
The Sydney phosphate mine is 3,000 acres, spanning both Brandon and Dover. An owner of part of the property wants to build 1,200 homes less than a mile from a hazardous site with cancerous chemicals like benzene, vinyl chloride, and 1,4-dioxane.
Moving huge amounts of soil and grading will exacerbate the movement of 1,4-dioxane, driving it deeper horizontally, farther laterally.
Renee Madison of Valrico was one of 6 residents speaking against the rezoning at a county hearing this week. She says leftover material from the phosphate mine could also be dangerous.
Equally concerning is the amount of radioactive dust that will be created 24/7 throughout the process of land development.
Attorney Jake Kramer represents the property's owner. He addressed the concerns.
We've got the full alphabet soup of at least 6 environmental agencies that are going to be reviewing all of these tests before we can even start turning dirt for residential. And then, as you'll see in the conditions, we've committed to additional testing.
County staff say they're comfortable with this strategy. Tim Lampkin with Development Services says as long as the developer addresses potential environmental hazards,
staff finds the request is approvable subject to conditions.
The Board of County Commissioners will have final say on the rezoning. That could happen within the next couple months. Jessica Mazzaros, WUSF 89.7 News.
2 former detainees at the Florida Immigration Center known as Alligator Alcatraz say they faced punishment for seeking legal advice. They say they had to write attorneys' phone numbers on walls with soap and water because they didn't have pen and paper. Civil rights attorneys seeking a temporary injunction to ensure detainees have the same legal access as those in federally run centers. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the estate of Joan B. Kroc, whose bequest serves as an enduring investment in the future of public radio and seeks to help NPR be the model for high-quality journalism in the 21st century. This is NPR.
State laws affect your wallet, your rights, and your future. Your Florida connects you to the Capitol and invites your voice into the conversation. I'm editor Amy Tardif. Check us out at wusf.org/yourflorida.
Power, Love, Betrayal. St. Pete Opera reunites the greatest voices of its 20 seasons in Handel's Giulio Cesare, a thrilling opera of passion and drama, at the Palladium January 30th through February 3rd. Get tickets at stpetopera.org.
This is Florida Matters Live and Local, sponsored by Badawi Law. We're broadcasting from the doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio at WUSF in Tampa. I'm Matthew Petty. Well, last year, the state of Florida expanded a program that lets charter schools move on to public schools that are under-enrolled. The program is called Schools of Hope. We've talked about it on the show before, and despite the optimistic name, some school districts are reacting with less hope and maybe a little more alarm. One school district, Pinellas County, recently approved a proposal to counter Schools of Hope. The district is planning to merge some schools and close others. If you've got thoughts on this, call and join the conversation. Do you think this is a smart move from Pinellas schools, or do you think it makes sense for public school campuses to make space for privately run charter schools if they have that space available? Give us a call, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@wusf.org. Education reporter Jeff Solachek joins us from the Tampa Bay Times. Jeff, thanks for being back with us. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here. Thanks for asking.
So we also reached out to Pinellas County school leadership and their school board to invite them on the show. They declined, but the offer does stand. So Jeff, just to remind people, Schools of Hope was initially set up to allow charter schools to get established in underperforming areas, but that changed pretty radically last year. Just remind us what happened.
At the end of the I'm sorry, my voice was popping on me. Sorry. At the end of the legislative session last year, some lawmakers put in some language that had basically died during the regular part of the session. And in it, it expanded the ability of charter schools that are labeled Schools of Hope to be able to enter underperforming schools in what everybody thought at the time was just going to be Miami-Dade County. But it turned out that it grew to expand statewide, and nobody really realized the full extent of it until the letter started showing up later in the fall.
And these letters essentially are from charter school companies saying, look, we would like to move on to some of these campuses where there's under-enrollment. And is there any kind of flexibility for school districts in how they respond? Like, do they have a choice? Is this kind of like being voluntold to give up property? What happens there?
There's a thing called material impracticability in the law, which gives them an opportunity to appeal and say, here's why we can't have this charter school operator be in our campuses. But that's really not very clear. Some people have asked for a clearer definition of what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there are some schools that felt like they had to respond immediately within the 20 days after receiving those initial letters. Others sent the letter back to the operators and said, hey, give us some time. We'll respond to you in March after we see if the rule changes and how it changes following the legislative session.
Let me just come back to that phrase you mentioned. Sounds a little legalese, but you said material impracticability?
Right.
Okay. So essentially they're saying we can't do it. It doesn't make sense. Or
right, and here's
impossible.
Why. And yeah.
So let's go back to Pinellas County Schools. So they have this idea. What does the plan entail, and which schools would be effective?
Well, first I want to point out that the Pinellas County plan is not solely to deal with schools of hope. They've been a shrinking school district for more than a decade, and they have more than 35,000 seats countywide that are empty.
Wow.
So they need to do this. It's not simply because of schools of hope, but schools of hope kind of makes it be more necessary because they did receive dozens of requests for space in the different campuses. And so this first round of proposals that they made was basically stuff that they say would be smaller and around the edges. And we're going to see a bigger set of proposals come out in the fall that are going to affect a lot more people. Mm-hmm. Right now, what they've done is they proposed merging two campuses, Bay Point Elementary and Bay Point Middle, which are nearby each other, next door to each other, merging them into a K-8 school and getting rid of the elementary school building and putting it all into the middle school building. They've proposed expanding Oldsmar Elementary School into a K-8 school, which is now just a K-5 school, on the hopes that they'll fill those classrooms with older students who want to come to that school. Mm-hmm. They've proposed closing down some of the wings at McMullen Booth Elementary School, which is under capacity by quite a bit, and using those for child care center for employees and if there's more room for people in the community. And they've also proposed closing down Cross Bayou Elementary School, merging it into other schools, and Diston Academy, which is an alternative school, which only had 57 students currently attending. And if you look at the numbers, it says it was at 17% of its capacity, but that's just because a lot of its students attend remotely.
Right. And so is what's happening here, Jeff, to the best of your understanding, they've had some, as you point out, some under-enrollment issues that have been going back for a few years now, and this maybe the Schools of Hope has just kind of spurred some of this on a little quicker than it may have had, or if they hadn't had these letters received?
Yeah, well, they knew that they had to do something because they're losing money as the programs go forward with vouchers and other things, and the funding in the legislature is not keeping up with inflation and costs are rising. And so they needed to become more efficient. And so the superintendent and the board agreed that they wanted to go forward with the plan. And so they spent a couple of months, longer before they came to this point, but a couple of months listening to the community, hearing what they had to say about these ideas. They put forward some ideas, and now we're looking forward to seeing what happens next.
And speaking of listening to the community, here's a little bit of sound from Pinellas County School Superintendent Kevin Hendrick. This is from a video message to the community about the proposal.
Your voices mattered, and they helped shape the current proposals and will continue to be utilized.
Now, if you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Tampa Bay Times education reporter Jeff Solowczyk about Pinellas County's plans to close some schools, merge others, and do some other things, partially in response to a bid by charter schools to co-locate on some school properties. If you've got opinions on this, some thoughts about it, what do you think about the idea of allowing charter schools to use space on under-enrolled public schools? Maybe you've got children in a school that could be affected by a Schools of Hope charter school moving in, give us a call, 813-755-6562, and let us know what you think, or email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Jeff, what else has school leadership said about enrollment and other challenges and charter school requests to co-locate on their properties? Like, I'm kind of wondering, does it seem like they're particularly concerned about this? Are they looking to make some accommodations for charter schools at all? Because there's been a range of responses from different school districts, right? Some are saying seem to be more accommodating, others seem a little more kind of worried about what that might mean for them.
School board members have expressed extreme disapproval with this rule as it exists right now. They've asked lawmakers to repeal it. They think that it's not conducive to having a good education to have two basically competing schools on the same campus when they don't even know how it would operate. A lot of the rules remain unclear, even if they were to stay that way. One of the big points was within the law. It said that the school districts would have to provide space and services free of charge to the charter schools. And when they're already struggling with their budgets, they felt like that's a really big ask. And so they have come out very strongly opposed to this. They've talked to their lobbyists. They've talked to their lawmakers. They approved something in their legislative priority list, and they're not excited about it. Let's just say that.
Okay. Speaking of costs, WSF took a look at some analysis from another school district about the cost of allowing Schools of Hope charter schools to move on to public school campuses. According to Manatee County Schools, they spend just over $4,000 per student as it is, and according to their analysis, allowing charter schools to operate rent-free on public school property would cost Manatee School District just over $2,500 per new student. Are you hearing some of those numbers being crunched in other school districts like Pinellas, for example, or is it just they're worried about the cost? They haven't sort of run the numbers yet?
I have not seen any specific numbers at this point.
Now, you mentioned something else just a moment ago. I wanted to go back to that. The State Board of Education held a workshop on Monday to revise and clarify language and rules about Schools of Hope. Did it clarify anything?
Not yet. No, actually, it was a really frustrating workshop hour for a lot of people who were listening into it, because all it really was a blank screen where you could type in comments, and occasionally a person would come on and say, thank you for your comments, and maybe offer a few more insights. The actual language was not provided. People couldn't talk to one another. We still haven't seen the language yet. It's not posted yet, although I hear it's starting to circulate in Tallahassee among certain people, so we should see it soon, I hope. But they gave a few hints as to what we might see related to things like how much the districts will have to pay to charge or not charge, or if they'll be allowed to charge for some of the services that they provide.
In the last 30 seconds or so here, Jeff, what are the next steps for Pinellas schools and maybe other school districts as they think about their next moves in response to some of these Schools of Hope letters?
Well, they're having to respond to the letters that they've received, and they're also looking to see how they can best maximize the use of their space. So that way they will have either some separated space available for those schools that ask for, or maybe reduce the amount of space that's available so that they don't have to deal with it as much.
Jeff Solacek, covering education for the Tampa Bay Times. Thanks as always for your insights. Really appreciate it.
Glad to. Ask anytime.
Well, coming up on Florida Matters Live and Local, Gasparilla kicks off this weekend. Tampa's annual outdoor pirate party may be a little less and more brr, though. We'll get an update on the wintry blast heading south next on Florida Matters Live and Local. Stay tuned for that.
WUSF brings you the voices of people working to fight climate change, including some young volunteers who planted a microforest.
All right, let's see. Do we need to put some more dirt in here? What do you think?
I already got a lot of that.
Oh, good.
When you hear about how people are growing new biodiversity hotspots, your perspective also grows. You can support the work of journalists in the WUSF newsroom at WUSF.org.
bringing the power of music to the concert hall, classroom, and your community with more than 100 concerts throughout Tampa Bay. From Beethoven to Broadway, discover Florida's largest orchestra at floridaorchestra.org.
Thank you, WUSF Cornerstone donors. Your annual gift of $1,200 or more supports the trusted journalism our listeners rely on every day. You help WUSF tell important local stories and keep our community informed no matter what. Thank you for making a difference for WUSF, your spot for local.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Well, all week, Winter Storm Fern has been freezing and dumping snow on states across the country. 34 states have been affected, over 200 million people. They're seeing inches of snow up north, while southern states like Texas and Mississippi have gotten more than half an inch of ice. Central and South Florida remained mostly untouched outside of 30-degree weather and high winds so far, but that is going to change next week when it gets a bit colder in our sunny state. And here to tell us more about what to expect beginning this weekend is Megan Borowski. She's the senior meteorologist at Florida Public Radio Emergency Network, or FPREN. Megan, thanks for being with us.
It's always great to be with you, Matthew.
We know the Panhandle, Megan, gets hit sometimes. Has any of Florida been affected by this winter storm so far?
We haven't seen any wintry precipitation from last weekend's event. But, that could change this weekend. We do expect another nor'easter to develop and mainly impact the Carolinas. But there has been chatter, especially on social media, about the potential for flurries along the Gulf Coast. That likely will not happen, but it is in the realm of possibility. The bigger thing with this system that's approaching is going to be the cold that arrives behind it overnight, Saturday into Sunday.
Let me ask about that snow too, because places like New York, cities along the Great Lakes have experienced lake effect snow.
Mm-hmm.
What is lake effect snow, and is it the same thing as kind of Gulf effect snow, if you could call it that?
Exactly. Yeah. So Gulf effect snow is kind of like the South's answer to the lake effect snow in the north. So pretty much what we're looking at is you have winds, cold winds blowing over a warmer body of water, and that warmer body of water supplies moisture to the atmosphere and allows for precipitation to develop. Up north, of course, it's lake effect snow, and they can get feet of snow over the course of a few hours. Down here in Florida, it has happened, both Gulf effect snow and ocean effect snow. But typically it's very limited if it's really zero accumulations, and you might just see flurries. We do have a chance. Like I said, social media has been blowing up with this particular chance. We do have a chance closer to Citrus, Pinellas, and Hillsborough counties, right along the coast of Hillsborough County. Overnight Saturday into Sunday, you may see a couple of flakes, but it's more likely that you'll just see a light drizzle coming in off the Gulf. But, there is that low chance, 10 to 20%, that you might see a flake or two overnight Saturday into Sunday.
What conditions would you need to actually get some flurries?
Well, you need a cold air mass, which we do have coming. In the mid levels, you need sub-freezing temperatures, it could be above freezing at the surface, but of course, then you won't have anything melt. So the conditions may be supportive for that, but again, there's a low end chance. I would be more concerned about the wind chills that we're expecting and the really, really cold temperatures coming in, especially for the second half of the weekend.
For sure. Now, it is a big weekend in Tampa, of course.
Yes.
We've got Gasparilla coming up, and in fact, it's big enough that the Tampa Police Department Marine Unit spent a little bit of time talking about the safety of weather conditions yesterday. Let's just take a listen.
The wind is going to be gusting anywhere between 20 to 30 miles an hour. Obviously, at noon, we're looking at sustained winds of 20-something miles an hour. Anchoring over here in the basin is going to be incredibly difficult that day, especially for inexperienced boaters. We encourage inexperienced boaters and or first-time boaters, this is probably not the Gasparilla, to come via water due to the fact that those sort of factors and the amount of vessels that will be in the basin that day is going to be incredibly difficult and will pose a safety risk.
All right, that was Christopher Audette with the Tampa Police Marine Unit. That audio courtesy of WFLA. And Megan, you kind of hear the wind buffeting around in the background there. A little bit of a taste of what's to come for Saturday, but that doesn't sound like a great recipe for success for being out on the boat if you've got a little boat on Saturday. I mean, what are some of the things that people need to be aware of, if not
Yeah.
worried about, on Saturday for Gasparilla?
Yeah, I mean, they're absolutely correct at the police department. Actually, the National Weather Service is actually debating issuing a gale watch because we do expect wind gusts maybe in excess of 30 miles an hour on the water. On the land, we could get 15 to 25-mile-an-hour gusts, especially Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into Sunday morning. So winds are going to pick up. I would suggest maybe avoiding being on the water. I know you want to be out there. It's a once-a-year event, but safety first here. So on top of the winds too, temperatures are going to be dropping. We could see wind chills overnight Saturday into Sunday drop into the teens and potentially the single digits, especially inland. So we've got to worry about that. Again, there is the chance for a couple of quickly passing showers as the winds come in off the Gulf, and then maybe a flurry toward coastal Hillsborough County and then Citrus to the north to Citrus County overnight Saturday into Sunday. But very gusty winds, temperatures dropping. Will likely only make it into the 50s on Saturday afternoon, and then we'll drop probably into the 30s right in downtown Tampa overnight Saturday into Sunday morning. So a very cold morning. And of course, you add those wind chills on there. We could see wind chills in the 20s in downtown Tampa, the teens in the single digits in interior locations on Sunday morning. So a very cold Gasparilla coming up for us. So I would suggest dress in layers. Maybe don't be out too late. And if you're new at boating, especially, maybe avoid going out on the water for this one.
Yeah, indeed. If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Megan Borowski, Senior Meteorologist at the Florida Public Radio Emergency Network, about the weather conditions over the weekend and later into the week as well. Megan, of course, it's probably not a great time to be out on a boat, but if you're a hockey fan, I mean, there's that big outdoor hockey game coming up on Sunday. Concerns leading up to it, of course, have been, will the ice melt in sunny Florida? It sounds like that is not going to be a worry.
No, not at all. Our highs on Sunday afternoon are likely only going to be in the 40s. That's almost asinine for us here in Florida.
Yeah.
We'll probably only make it to the mid to upper 40s on Sunday, so quite chilly. Our winds should start to die down a little bit, but we still could have 20-mile-an-hour gusts on Sunday, and of course that's going to help keep our feels like temperature a little bit lower. So very very blustery weekend, well below average temperatures this weekend, and we already actually have extreme cold warnings, or actually it's a watch in effect right now. It will likely be upgraded to a warning for interior Hillsborough County. That likely will be expanded, at least some sort of cold weather alert for Pinellas and for western Hillsborough County as well for the weekend. So bundle up is my best suggestion for you if you do plan on being outside either for Gasparilla on Saturday or for any other festivities on Sunday.
Just before we let you go, Megan,
Sure.
thoughts about traveling or getting your house or your garden ready for this cold blast?
Yeah, I mean, people have been covering their plants for the past couple of evenings. I would say if you do have any sensitive plants, you're going to want to bring them in this weekend. If you have outdoor animals, provide them with adequate shelter, or outdoor pets, bring them inside if you've got outdoor, small animals. But for the larger farm animals, provide shelter. The other thing that we're watching, Matthew, is impacts to agriculture. I know, we're in strawberry season, and I know some farms have been doing some preparations there. It'll be interesting to see, how badly this cold weather impacts our agriculture, especially toward rural Hillsborough County.
Yes, indeed. Well, lots to keep an eye on there. Megan Borowski, Senior Meteorologist at Florida Public Radio Emergency Network. Thank you so much for that update.
Yes, stay warm.
Indeed, you too. Well, coming up next, property taxes. Is there a balance between lowering property taxes and ensuring a good quality of life in our community? Some of those things that property taxes pay for. Give us a call and let us know what you think. 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. The conversation continues about property taxes on Florida Matters Live and Local in a moment. Stay with us.
On the next Florida Roundup, you've probably heard of NIMBY, not in my backyard. What about YIGBY? Yes, in God's backyard. Churches and other faith organizations open up their land to build affordable housing. At least 2 Florida cities are moving forward. So are you a NIMBY or a YIGBY or somewhere in between? Email us radio@thefloridaroundup.org. I'm Tom Hudson. Then be sure to join us Friday, noon until 1.
Listener support powers WUSF. Funding also comes from Badawi Law, offering legal services in personal injury, immigration, and auto accidents, with offices in Tampa, Florida. Office information and practice details at badawilaw.com or learn more on Instagram at Badawi Law.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. Catch up on the latest health news at the Health News Florida page on WUSF.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Property taxes are a hot topic in Tallahassee right now. In fact, they have been for some time. The thought of them rising can be anxiety-inducing, and the thought of eliminating them altogether is also a cause for pause. Property taxes do have an impact on all of us, whether or not we're homeowners and we have to pay them directly, or tenants who see the rise reflected in rent. Those taxes fund things we all depend on, like first responders, schools, water management. We want you to weigh in. Is there a balance between lowering property taxes and ensuring a good quality of life in our communities? Give us a call, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@wusf.org. Or joining us to bring the topics of the capital to the local level is Manatee County Commissioner George Cruz. George, thanks for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I think we also have Palm Bay Representative, Florida Representative Monique Miller, who's sponsoring one of those tax proposals with us as well. Representative Miller, I should say. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, thanks for being here.
Great to be here.
Indeed. Let me start with you, Commissioner Cruz. From the local level, how does Manatee County use property taxes, and what's the kind of mood amongst your constituents there? What are they thinking about these things?
Sure. Property taxes pay for everything we do that provides a quality of life, from safety to niceties like animal welfare and taking care of our homeless, many of which are preempted and mandated by the state. It's a balancing act at the local level. And as I always advocate, the advantage of the local level is these people find me. My residents find me at Publix. They find me at my daughter's soccer game. They could tell me what's important to them, because as people always say, you show me your budget, I'll tell you your priorities. We can match the priorities of Manatee County with the budget we need to ensure their quality of life. And our priorities are going to be different than 66 other counties' priorities.
Mm-hmm. Are those conversations in the grocery aisles comfortable, uncomfortable? Like, how do those play out?
It's both every single time. Like I talked about this while I was up at Tallahassee when I was speaking on Rep Miller's bill. As a matter of fact, we just lowered our trash to once a week because half the community wanted lower trash rates. And as soon as we lowered it to once a week, the other half started, screaming at us because they wanted twice a week again and would rather pay more. There's no perfect balance. The perfect balance is every 2 years, half of my board is up for election, and the other 2 years, the other half of the board's up. And our citizens have a right in real time to enact the policies they want based upon the votes they make to put the right people on our board.
I wanted to ask you about something you said last week. You said lower property taxes over time will make people get accustomed to a lower quality of life. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Well, I mean, Rep Miller's proposal, and don't get me wrong, it makes sense. It's an interesting proposal as opposed to the rip the Band-Aid off approach. But if you just keep taking $100,000 off of everyone's assessment every year, local governments are going to have to continuously lower services and quality of life. You're not going to notice that the library is shut down an extra 2 hours or the pools are shut down an extra day until all of a sudden you're going to look back 10 years from now and realize how much you've really lost. And the reality is Manatee County's average median assessed value is only $360,000. It may be a 10-year window to get all the way to the multimillionaires and the homes on the water, but a vast majority of our taxes are going to be gone in 3 years. It's not really as staged as it's implied. And there's some counties where their median assessment is less than $100,000. They're going to get wiped out day one.
Well, let me bring you into this conversation then, Representative Monique Miller. So you're the co-sponsor, I believe, of a couple of property tax proposals. One of them is HJR 201, and I think this would it not immediately remove property taxes? Can you just kind of clarify what it would do?
Yeah, so thank you. There are two property tax bills that I have sponsored. One is the one that he was alluding to just a few minutes ago, which is that we remove all of non-school ad valorem taxes for homesteaded properties over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one does it immediately.
Yep. Okay, so...
Yep. 203 and 201 respectively.
Okay, so is one of them sort of like a backstop bill in case the other one doesn't go through? Like which would you like to see yourself?
So, well, let me just tell you how we got here. So
Sure.
about, I don't know, maybe about 9 months ago, people were asking us for a property tax relief. The Florida families have been having to tighten their belts, and unfortunately, government spending has increased substantially, and it's really gotten to a point where there was a lot of backlash, and public opinion was we really want to get rid of property taxes. So Speaker Perez in the House put together a special select committee on property taxes, and we spent several months studying all aspects of property taxes and looking at different solutions to accommodate what voters are asking for, and that is to get some property tax relief. And out of that committee, we had 7 House joint resolutions, and joint resolutions are different than bills in that they are constitutional amendments that have to be voted on by the public. So this is something that would go on the 2026 ballot. And they can, if 60% of the population votes for it, it would actually amend the Constitution to say so.
Yeah.
There's also one that's just a bill as well on the topic.
Yeah, okay. Is that the Save Our Homes Cap bill?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so if I'm not wrong, Representative Cruz, you're Commissioner Cruz, I should say, you're saying it's good to let kind of local governments have a little bit of kind of flexibility in how they assess these taxes because every community is going to be a little bit different?
It is, but look, it's not in my best interest to keep our taxes high. One, I pay the taxes myself, and two, I have to work with our constituents. I would love to lower our taxes. I'd love to eliminate our taxes. That would be great. Unfortunately, nobody has proposed, nor do I have the ability to backstop the services people want. I just had a bunch of emails from a swim team because we had to close one of our pools down 2 days a week because we can't fit hiring enough lifeguards into our current budget. And so we're getting screamed at. I'd love to open that pool. There's other ways we can accommodate this, which the state's implying they're going to look at, although there's no actual plan because the implementation bill will come after the vote. And now we're at the mercy of whomever it is who makes that decision. But our gas taxes at the local level aren't indexed like the state level. We have very strict restrictions on what we can do with tourist development taxes, so we can't spend those. We're capped at 1% local sales tax. If the state would just take a step back and give us a year or two to fix these ourselves, based upon this conversation, and give us the flexibility, give all of the municipalities the flexibility to be a little more thoughtful about how we're going to generate the revenue to meet this, I think we'd come to a very good common ground. Instead, they're just trying to rip this Band-Aid off without any real dialogue from the local government and then put us in a position where we're basically going to be beholden to the state because the sales taxes will go up there, the dock stamps will go up there. If you're a fiscally constrained county, you're going to get wiped out day one, and you're going to effectively become a ward of the state, and you're going to have to present your budget at the Tallahassee level every year and beg for money just to keep the lights on.
Okay, so that is the view of George Cruz, Commissioner there. Let's get a call, and if we could, Jose in Davenport. Jose, you're on the air. What is going through your mind when you think about property taxes?
Oh, they're getting completely out of hand. When I moved into the property that I live now 10 years ago, I was paying $264.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm paying $1,100 due to all the build-up, all the subdivisions, the townhouses. They have brought the property value to almost $250,000.
Are you seeing any increase in services from those taxes going up?
No, because the only thing they do for me is picking up my garbage. I got my own septic tank. I don't require anything from the county when it getting rid of wastewater. But I was a little curious about that Mr. Cruz said something about not having money for the pool, but the problem that I'm having that a lot of the police officers in here drive the cars to the houses. We can eliminate that and lower some of those taxes. Why are police officers driving cars to the houses that we already paid for? They get a salary, and they can drive their own vehicles.
Okay. Thanks for weighing in, Jose. That's a very specific question, but Commissioner Cruz, what about that? I mean, is that something that needs to be looked at?
Well, first, just to get to the first question, I'd really be curious what kind of house structure you have, because the greatest thing that the state of Florida did for homeowners is Save Our Homes. Save Our Homes caps your tax assessed value increases by a max 3% a year, 3% or CPI, and a lot of times it hits that CPI unless we're in a hyperinflation economy like we are now. So my taxes over the past 4 years have only gone up 4.4% total. $230, whereas my insurance has gone up 270%. So, I mean, my taxes are not going up dramatically, and I would argue that my services are going up greater than my taxes because the inflationary cost of providing the services. Every road you drive on, every sidewalk you walk on, every new library you go to check out a book is a service that's being provided. As for the sheriff, that's the interesting part of this. We only have about a total of $400 million of property taxes. Over $170 million of that goes to the sheriff's budget, almost 50%. And all of these bills, including Rep. Miller's bill, cap or put a floor on that. I can't lower that commensurately with property taxes going down. That's half of it. The bill to phase this in, according to the calculations, shows that Manatee County stands to lose over $200 million a year recurring in property taxes if that phased in approach hits. I only have $230 million total after the sheriff, which I'm not allowed to lower. Even after I just pay my debt service on bonds, I have zero. I have $0. I can't even pay staff, much less keep libraries and pools open. And I have very little control over the sheriff's budget because a lot of that's controlled at the state level. A lot of all of the constitutional officers have formulaic calculations, and the sheriff, while we have some flexibility, it is now going to have a floor. Yeah. And that floor for 67 sheriffs, let me put that's all they're going to get.
Yeah, let me put that to Representative Miller if I could real quick, because we are kind of running up on time here. But what about that? I mean, is there any wiggle room here?
So, well, thanks for that. There's a couple things I'd love to address. First of all, the property taxes have gone up by over 50% in the last 5 years. And so governments have had an opportunity to address this sooner. Unfortunately, they haven't. And now this is why we're hearing from people just like your caller saying, we can't take this anymore and we need your help. And so that's why we're having to step in and help them find their priorities, which is public safety and infrastructure, and making sure that those things are funded first. And then second of all, I wanted to just address the comment about Save Our Homes. Save Our Homes is a great program that has done a lot, but property taxes have a fundamental built-in kind of problem with them. We now have a situation where the people who are the builders of our community, the people who have lived in our communities, are worth less to government than the people who are moving in and buying homes new, because their tax dollars are going to be a lot greater than the people who have lived in those homes for 20 years. We're creating this disparity. My father always said, you never want to be worth more dead than alive. And unfortunately, we're creating a situation where the people who are the foundation of our communities are worth more dead than alive. And that's a concern. We don't want to have to change the face of our community by bringing people in to feed this beast. There's got to be a better way to fund it.
Let me just get another caller in here if I could. We've got Daniel on the line. Daniel in St. Pete, quickly if possible.
Hi, so I just wanted to make a comment that I think property tax cuts are ridiculous and are indicative of the gerontocracy we have in Florida. Property taxes subsidize the elderly people and older people in the state who tend to own homes at the expense of younger people trying to start families. There should be a downward pressure on older people who own homes that are too large for them so that they can move out and open up housing stock for young people trying to start families. That is a big reason we have such a housing crisis in the state.
All right, Daniel, thank you so much. Real quick, let me just read an email here from Patricia, who says, if you look at this, newer buyers are paying about 3 times what older owners are paying. Why not make this more even? Real quick, if we could, Representative Miller, we've only got a few seconds left here, but I mean, is that something that needs to be looked at in any of these bills?
Yeah, so we do actually have some portability in one of the bills that allows us to take it when you go to downsize. That is a big limitation. We're seeing that the median age for new homeowners is increasing, and that's a bad thing for Florida. So anything we can do to make it attractive for people to buy their first home, we want to do that. And a number of the bills address that as well. One actually offsets the cost of insurance for people, so that so we've really taken a number of approaches. We're really kind of just waiting on the governor, who has been talking about this for a year, to come and weigh in on his perspective and see what the Senate does, because we can't do anything without our partners in the Senate.
Indeed. We're going to have to leave the conversation there, but lots more to talk about. We'll revisit in the future. Thank you so much, Palm Bay Representative Monique Miller and Manatee County Commissioner George Cruz. Really appreciate both of you weighing in. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us. Bye-bye.
Well, coming up next, we're talking ice hockey. A little bit different, though. We're going to chat with Tampa-born Paralympian Declan Farmer, who's getting ready to compete in the 2026 Paralympics in Milan. Stay tuned for that conversation on Florida Matters Live and Local.
You're just an ordinary kid.
I'm Robin Young. A new stage adaptation of the novel Wonder tells of a teen with facial differences facing bullying, and the actors playing the role have facial differences.
Since I've always lived with this, I don't know what it's like to be normal, and I'm okay with that.
Next time, Here and Now.
Don't make other kids run screaming at the playground. One by one, they each avoid your eyes. Look up, look down.
Coming up at 1 after Florida Matters Live and Local.
NPR Music wants to hear your music. Submit your very own original song to the Tiny Desk contest between January 13th and February 9th. If you win, you'll play your very own Tiny Desk concert. Learn more at npr.org/Tiny Desk Contest. And make sure you tune in to Tiny Desk Radio on Friday nights at 9 and Saturday nights at 8 on WUSF 89.7. Your spot for local.
Gulfside Healthcare Services has provided expert, compassionate care in hospice, palliative, and home health for over 35 years. Now serving Pinellas hospice patients. Call 800-561-4883 for information or visit gulfside.org.
Discover stories, interviews, and inspiration from Tampa Bay's creative community at artsaccessflorida.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Well, this week's cool chill in Tampa will eventually thaw, but in Milan, Italy, the ice is building. Milan plays host to the 2026 Winter Olympics and Winter Paralympics this February and March, showing the world's best competitors of winter sports like bobsledding, figure skating, skiing, and hockey.
And Roybal, Declan Farmer, he shoots, and it's in! And Declan Farmer, using his teammate, the 15-year-old Roybal, almost as a decoy, walked all the way around, had a clean shot, and it just barely trickles through.
All right, well, if you're a lover of the Winter Olympics and the Winter Paralympics and can't get enough hockey right now, call and share your thoughts. What do you love about the Winter Olympics? What do you like about para hockey? 813-755-6562. And, of course, we have been talking about hockey in the last few days on the show because Tampa's hockey players won't be in the spotlight only for the Lightning. Some of those Floridians are also competing for the games. Going into the 4th Winter Paralympics this year is 28-year-old Declan Farmer. Just heard a little bit of footage there of Declan from one of his previous games. He was born in Tampa and will be in the Paralympics competing as a para-ice hockey player. Now, para-ice hockey is also known as sledge hockey or sled hockey. Instead of skates, players use double-blade sledges that allow the puck to pass beneath. And he joins us now from Colorado, where he's prepping for the Winter Games. Declan, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me on.
And if you're a fan of hockey or para-hockey and want to weigh in, give us a call, 813-755-6562. Okay, so how long have you been playing the sport for?
I started playing when I was about 8 years old. The Tampa Bay Lightning were the first NHL club to start sponsoring like a local sled hockey team for disabled athletes. So I got into it that way. And, without their support, I never probably would have found it when I did. And they've just kind of been paving the way for NHL support of club sled hockey, which, gets youth players playing. And, that's the start of my journey.
So for people who haven't actually gone to see a game or seen one on television, like how would you describe para hockey or sled hockey? What does it look like?
Yeah, it's same rules as stand-up ice hockey that you see. We have 5 players, a goalie on each team. Um, and the biggest difference is in equipment. So we're sitting down in a sled as you described. If people saw it, you could tell, but we have 2 shorter sticks with ice picks on the bottom. So we push ourselves just using our arms, and it's kind of cross-country skiing style of pushing. And then we slide our hands down the stick to use the blade to shoot and pass and everything. So compared to stand-up hockey, it's because we have 2 sticks, we actually have a little bit more puck possession, and there's fewer turnover of the puck like you would see in a Lightning game. So there's a little differences, but it's overall really similar to stand-up ice hockey.
Is it the same size rink?
Yep, same size rink, same rules and everything. It's only the equipment differences and a couple different rules that come with those equipment differences, but the game is played the same way.
And the same length too, right? Because hockey is what,
Yep.
3 periods, 15 minutes each?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Same length. Yeah.
So that, I mean, I'm thinking about that. That is intense. I mean, you think about hockey players, they're powering themselves around this rink at high speeds. There's a lot of leg work that goes into it. You're a para hockey player. You are using your arm strength. Like, you must be absolutely knackered at the end of the game.
Yeah, definitely tougher to use your upper body for everything. That's why it makes it a little bit more technically difficult, because you're using your arms for both skating and shooting. So you have to get pretty fluid and smooth at switching between those 2 things. So there's quite a learning curve to it, which makes it interesting to play and continue to develop.
Yeah, okay. So what does the kind of preparation look like for you? You're up in Colorado at the moment. How long have you been up there for?
Yep. I've lived out here for a few years, getting ready for these games, but we have the entire team out here now. We have about a 7-week continuous training camp before the Milan games that we're just about halfway through. So we're on the ice most days of the week together. We, train with a private trainer that helps the team get ready off the ice. And yeah, we're just building on the little stuff. We've already played all of our games this season ahead of the Paralympics. So we kind of know what we have to work on. And now it's just about improving ourselves and getting ready for Milan.
Yeah. I misspoke earlier. I said 3 15-minute periods. I should have said 20 minutes. So, yeah, it's a long time on the ice either way. Just some of the other things, like when I think about hockey, I think about some of the excitement of the way players are tackled. Like the fact that you're on a sled, does that sort of change the rules at all there in terms of kind of how you engage with other players?
Yeah, good question. There's one of the penalty that's new to or different from sled hockey to stand-up hockey is called T-boning. So you basically can't use your sled as a weapon to hit someone.
Yeah.
You can't hit someone with the front of your sled. So it's still full body contact, just not sled contact in that way. And then we also have, like I mentioned, ice picks on the bottom of our sticks to dig into the ice. And then those are, obviously pretty dangerous, because if they get up in on someone's body instead of just the ice, you can get gashed a bit. I feel like every tournament we have a couple guys that have to get stitches just from, contact with another player's ice picks.
Yeah. Okay. And then, I mean, it's such a fast sport too. I mean, everything happens kind of in the blink of the eye. So how much kind of mental gymnastics are you going through to make sure that you are kind of playing in a way that isn't going to endanger your teammates or the players in the other team, and still kind of get the job done?
Yeah, it's I think it's like any sport where at first it feels really fast and you can't quite you can't think quick enough to keep up with the game, but after enough time you kind of get used to stuff, and a lot of the movements are automatic. Just as far as avoiding contact, you kind of know where to protect yourself along the wall, because when we hit each other along the boards, we're lower to the ice and the boards are really stiff and don't move, so it can be pretty dangerous getting hit along the wall. Where if you watch a stand-up hockey game, Lightning game, they're getting hit into the glass, and the glass really flexes and bends, so it's not as dangerous for them to be hit along the wall. So you just have to be careful in those areas. But as you grow up and play, you kind of get used to the speed of the game that you're in.
Do they have fights in para hockey like they do in hockey? Is there an enforcer in the team?
There's some big hitters on the team. And really in all Olympic and Paralympic sports, you can't fight. Like if there was a fight in the Olympics, if Hagel is fighting someone for Team Canada, he's gonna get kicked out of the game. You don't
Yeah.
just get a 5-minute penalty. So for us, it's kind of similar. You'll see more scrums. We're wearing full face shields because we're so close to the ice to protect ourselves from picks and pucks and everything. So we don't necessarily like drop our gloves and start punching someone in a cage. It's more kind of about it's more of a hybrid of wrestling, kind of headlocking
Wow.
someone kind of thing. But that's you probably won't see that at the Paralympics. It's more of a exhibition game between US and Canada where there's not a whole lot on the line other than the game itself.
And is there a good kind of camaraderie in general between the different international teams?
Yeah, there is. We're pretty close. Guys on the U.S. team are pretty close with some players on Team Japan and Team Czech Republic. We've done some joint training camps with the Czech Republic. And then for Team Japan, we actually have done a little bit of a exchange where a few of us went over and helped train their team because they're, in sled hockey and pair hockey, there's a pretty big gap between some of the top teams and the bottom teams. So with the US, Canada, Russia kind of being on top, we're trying to help some of the other countries develop to bring more parity to the game. So we've actually had a few players on Team Japan live out in Colorado for the past number of years and train with us regularly. So it's been, there is a lot of camaraderie internationally.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Tampa para hockey player Declan Farmer. He lives in Colorado now and he's training for the upcoming Winter Olympics. If you've got a question about para hockey or some thoughts about it, give us a call, 813-755-6562. When you think back to your first Winter Olympics, what was that competition like, and what do you is every Olympics a little bit different in terms of how you approach it or the sort of feeling you get sliding out onto the ice?
Yeah, but it's all different. Well, I was in high school for my first games, which is the Sochi Paralympics in 2014. I was the second youngest player on the team then, being a sophomore in high school, and it was a good games. We won gold. We actually lost for the first time ever, we lost to Russia in the preliminary round, and that set us up for a semifinal against Canada. And we beat them, and we beat Russia again in the gold medal game, and that was pretty awesome. That was, if anyone's seen the Icarus documentary about the Russian doping scandal around Sochi, that was, we were playing players that were kind of all mixed up in that, and watching that documentary, you kind of see what the buildings were in Sochi, and I was, players on our team, myself, were drug tested in Sochi, and that was just pretty cool to see that, looking back at the Sochi games. But it was really cool to have that experience as a sophomore in high school, and then come back, get to drop the puck at the Lightning game, and all that kind of fun stuff that comes with being a Paralympian.
Now you've won 3 golds, right, in the Olympics?
Yep. Yeah, 3 golds.
What are your chances this year? Like, who's your competition? How's it looking?
Yeah. Well, with Olympic, Paralympic sports and hockey tournaments, we played single elimination games when we get to a certain point in the tournament. So we don't have long series. So anything can really happen. We're the favorites along with Canada. I mean, we definitely, are, favorite to win. We win most of our games against Canada, but Canada, the Czech Republic, Team China is looking pretty good. They can all beat us. So you never know what's going to happen over there. You kind of just prepare to be the best team you can be, and it's about executing on the ice when you get the opportunity.
Well, we're going to have to leave the conversation there, but Declan Farmer, 3 times gold-winning Paralympian, we've been speaking with him. He's in Colorado ahead of the Winter Paralympics in Italy this March. Declan, thank you so much, and best of luck in the Olympics.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
And the 2026 Winter Olympics, officially known as Milano Cortina 2026, will be held from February 6th to the 22nd, followed by the Winter Paralympics from March 6th to March 15th, 2026. Well, that's our show for today. Florida Matters executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our producers are Amelie Horace and Quincy Walters. Our engineers are Jackson Harp and Gio Garvin. Jackson composes our theme music, and Chandler Balcom handled the video today. Subscribe to Florida Matters wherever you get your podcasts and watch on WUSF's YouTube channel. I'm Matthew Petty. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and do stay warm this weekend. See you next week.